Alright, we've seen that we can upload images and do other stuff, but something we haven't taken care of is the file name. Now, the first thing that comes into mind is what happens when we have a duplicate, and we can just try it by uploading the same file again as we have here. And we see it's adding a random string, so duplicates are not a problem. However, one thing that might be a problem is the naming that's being exposed here, because this might be something that we might not want. First of all, it makes the directory browsable. Imagine all your files start with DSC and a number, so you can just start browsing for DSC 008, see what's there. Oh, nothing. Well, you can just go around and look at files, which is not very good. Now, we could probably make something that you cannot look it up with Django, but on the other side, that's just additional overhead, and there's an easier way to do that. What about if we just hash the file name? And with hashing, I don't really mean hashing. What about if we just use a random string? This will solve our problem of being accessible. This will solve also this random string behind there for most cases. And last but not least, it serves as an example of how to use the unique identifiers of Python. Now, you would probably think this should go into the REST endpoint. Truth is, it doesn't. It goes into the model because it should reflect everything that Django does on the model needs to be done in the model, and it needs to be done for all of the instances that use the model. If we implement it in the REST endpoint and we want to reuse the image upload model at some point, then we would have to copy paste it from our view sets or our serializers to wherever we want to reuse the image upload. But if we use it here and we define ourselves a function, then we can just reuse the whole uploaded image model. No issues here. Alright. What we need to do is we need to make ourselves a method. We call it Scramble uploaded file name. It gets an instance and a file name, and it just returns a file name dot JPEG maybe. And in the image field, we need to say what happens when we upload. We upload to Scramble uploaded file name, and we don't need to give parameters here. This is happening in Django. Now, this doesn't make much sense, right? We don't want to rename all our files to filename.jpg, so we include ourselves the unique identifier model. That's already here, we don't need to install it. First of all, before we do a unique identifier, we need to get the extension of this file, because it could be a JPEG, it could be a GIF, it could be a PNG, we don't know. To do that, we split the file name by all dots, and we get the last element by saying -1. We get the last element of the array. Second, we need to return something here. We do that by using strings. We can use this with a dot and just feed it with whatever we need. We need some file name, haven't said it yet, and the extension. So we haven't come much further. We're still returning filename.jpg in most cases. We need to replace filename with a unique identifier. To do that, we simply replace this by uuid.uuid4, and that's it. You probably might think, that's it, really? Nothing else? Yes, that's it. Can we test it? Yes, we can. Let's upload DSC 009, and we have a new file name. That's a random string, and it ends in .jpg. Don't believe it? It's not random? Upload it again. That's a different random string. Still believing it? Upload it again. That's another different random string. Okay, go back to here. See, we have 3 images that don't have the random string. We can delete them if you want to. So just go here and say delete. Yes. Which else? We need to delete image number 2. Delete. And image number 4 needs to be deleted. Now, you might think I'm just telling bullshit here, because that's just a random string, right? You don't know if the image is actually there. Here we go, it's there. Now you might still say I'm doing something magic here, I'm just lying to you, because this could just be a redirect to the original image. Nope, they are here. At the same time, something you might notice here is the images we deleted are also still here, which is not exactly the behavior we want, but there is a good reason behind this, and it has to do with the backup method that Django uses. For instance, if something fails, then this image would have been deleted already, so we can, this way it's still here, we can restore it, and we might be able to just schedule a cron job to delete images that are no longer referenced if we want to. But that's for a different step. Anyway, some other thing that is coming up now that you might easily forget. We edited our model. We added an upload to field here. This doesn't do much, to be honest. There shouldn't be a new migration. However, Django thinks different. Django thinks we should make ourselves a new migration for this. So we're just gonna call Python manage py make migrations. As you can see, we altered the field image on upload image. We can look at this migration and it will just tell us all we did is we set and uploaded to. I'm not even sure if this actually goes into the database, but it has something to do with linking the model together. So yeah. One thing I like to do here is I like to rename this to something more senseful than auto. Could just say this is Scramble image name. Last but not least, we need to execute this migration. So we say Python manage py migrate, and we're done. Alright, we have created the backend. Now it is time to do something fancy and create the frontend. To create the front-end application, we want to do it inside of Django. You can do it outside of Django if you want to. That's completely up to you. In my little example, it makes sense to do it inside because then I don't have to link the backend app with the front-end app and make sure the Git repositories are in sync all the time. For larger examples or for larger projects, it might make sense to separate them. First of all, make sure you're in the right directory. You have a manage py here. And we're gonna call Python manage py start app, and we're gonna call it image upload frontend. As you can see with my naming, I have a pretty clear structure here. I know image upload is my model, or the basic things of image upload. I know image upload frontend will be the project where I have all my frontend related things, and image upload rest will be everything with the rest endpoint. Okay, image upload rest now has migrations. Don't need migrations here. It's a frontend. It has an admin panel. Don't need an admin panel. It's a frontend. It has models. I don't need models. It's a frontend. It has tests. We might need them. And it has a view. We might also need them. So we're gonna keep it. It doesn't have a URLs py, so that's the first thing we're gonna create. And we're just gonna write something very basic in here. It's gonna be importing the basic things that we really need. And we're gonna need the redirect view. The redirect view just tells the browser that whatever you're requesting is not here. Go look on a different URL for it. And that's all we need for our little front-end app for now. There is other ways to do what we want to do, but for this tutorial, this is the simplest way of doing it. We need to add an URL pattern with a regular expression for anything that comes in here. Actually the index view in this case, not just anything. And we're gonna redirect it to static index.html. We don't want it to be a permanent redirect. Just for the purpose of not having permanent redirects. I do not like permanent redirects because it will tell the browser that whatever you're looking for, it will never be here. Always go to static index.html. And as this is our index page, we might end up in a scenario where we have to tell the users they need to delete their caches to be able to access our website again, and I want to avoid that. So don't use permanent is true anytime. So what will that do? Nothing actually, because we haven't included the app. Go to settings py, add the image upload frontend here, go to URLs py and say that we want to redirect the frontend, or we want to redirect the index page, basically anything coming in here, to image upload frontend.urls, and we're gonna give it the namespace of frontend. That's it. Can now, is there an error? Yes, there's an error. We have a syntax error here. We forgot our comma. Always add commas at the end of your lines if you do an array or a list. What happens now if you go here? We are redirected to static index.html. We haven't got a static folder here yet, so this is something we need to create in the front end, and we need to add an index.html in here. And we just write hello world, and we see what happens. Not working yet. We probably have to do something with our static file. Might have to restart the server because it doesn't know that it should serve from here. There we go. So now if we access this page, we are redirected to static index.html, and now this index.html will be where we're gonna write our front end, and that's gonna happen in the next step. Alright, in the last step we've just set up index.html. Now it is time to get the front-end framework running. As a front-end framework we're going to use AngularJS, which is a popular JavaScript framework. To install it or to get it into our project, we need to go into our image upload frontend and then go into the static folder. So there is the index.html, and then we're going to use the node package manager to install Angular. As you can see, it's installing version 1.5.8, and it should also appear here now. Yes, node modules and Angular. In addition, we need Angular resource, which will handle our REST API stuff. Should also appear in this node modules folder. Here we go. And now we need to set up a basic Angular page. To do that, we will start with a JavaScript directory. In this JavaScript directory, we'll put our main file, which we will call app.js. In app.js, we will write a basic app by saying angular.module, and we're gonna call it image upload front end app, and it requires ng resource. Next, we will have myapp.config. We need to config our resource provider so that it knows how to access the Django REST API. This is kind of a preliminary step before we can access the API. We need to say resource provider.defaults.strip trailing slashes equals false. This means that in URL call like API images is not what we want. We want API images and then a slash at the end. The same for if we access a primary key, we need a slash at the end for Django REST to work. Alright, now that we've got this out of the way, we can configure our actual controller, which is the front-end controller in this case. We will call it main control, as we only have one, and we will inject the scope. And add a log message saying console.log in main control, so we can actually see that it's working. Next up, in index.html, we need to do some work, like this is not needed anymore. First of all, we define the doc type as HTML. Second, we define the HTML tag. We can set the language here, we don't have to, but it's recommended. And we set the head element. In the head we set the character set to UTF-8, so we don't have any encoding problems, or rather decoding problems. And we need to include Angular and the other plugins we have, like Angular Resource. To do this, we open up a script tag, we say source equals, and now the source is in node modules, Angular. I don't get autocomplete here. Source Angular, and then Angular.js. You can also use Angular.min.js if you want to. Can we add it? No, we cannot click into it. Oh well. Next, we want to include Angular resource. So we say script source node modules Angular resource, and as we don't have autocomplete here, we just have to check. Yeah, there we go. It's Angular resource.js. Again, you can use the minified version of the script if you want to. For now, we will leave it with this. We will just see what it does and see if it works. Also, not having the minified version here helps us to run a debug mode more or better. Last but not least, let's include our app. Good. That's it for the head tag. Now we need to add a body tag. In the body tag, we will add ourselves a division, which will be our ng app. So we call it image upload frontend app, and it's controlled by main control. And in here comes our hello world, because there's nothing else to do right now. So let's see what that does. We will run the server and click on this link, which hopefully opens Firefox. Looks exactly the same as before. Using Ctrl-Shift-K or the developer tools here. I like to use the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-K. We see, oh, injector module error, failed to instantiate module image upload frontend app due to module ng resources is not available. Interesting. Did we include it wrong? Angular resource, AngularResource.js. No, that's right. Maybe we misspelled the app. Nope. Let's refresh it. See if there's any network errors. No, it's loading Angular resource, it's loading Angular. Not sure what is going on. Here's Angular resource. It's saying ng resources. Oh, did I have an S? Yeah, sorry. I misspelled it. This is ng resource. Here we go, and it tells us we are in main control. What did that actually do? Nothing. Literally nothing. We just load the controller and we are here. Now here we can do our magic with our REST API, but before we do that, we need to define how to access our REST API. For this, we create a new file called images.rest.js. We can close the node modules here, we don't need that. In images.rest.js, we need to create a factory. We will call it images, and it gets the resources. Resources is ng resource basically, and I've already misspelled it again. It's resource, and here we say return $resource, the URL, which is API images colon primary key, and we define that the primary key is being taken from the primary key attribute. This means that this primary key here, which maps to this one, is taken from the REST API field primary key when we do something with it. We don't need to define anything more, just need to include it in our app or in our HTML page. and reload it. It's ready. At least there's no error messages, right? Next step, we go to our app. We need to inject the images endpoint here, and we need to say something like scope.images is images.query, where query will always be defined by the resource provider, ng-resource. Basically, if you don't know what ng-resource is, I recommend reading about it. Query will always use a GET request on the root of images, so it will return a list of images, and it will be saved in our scope.images variable. And just to prove, we will add a text area element here where we output scope.images. There's not much you will see, but actually you will not see anything. Okay, let's see what's going on. The API images endpoint is queried. We're getting a response here, so the error is somewhere else. Oh, well, the error is here. We don't need to write scope. We are already in the scope of main control, and we want to access images. My bad here. Here we go. Don't mind the spaces here, it's just a temporary output. And you see this is the raw output of our API in terms of JSON. Or actually this is already a past JavaScript object that's being printed as JSON here. So what can we do with that little object? Well, we know this is an array. Inside of this array is an image with a primary key and the URL for the image. In Angular, you can easily do something with it by using the ng-repeat directive. So we repeat image in images. And for the purpose of this tutorial, we already add a track by option, which should improve the performance of the page and some flickering issues, etc. And now, for now, we just print the image and we remove the text area above. What will this do? Now we have a list of images. We don't have an array anymore. We have each image in this little division that we can access. Similar to what we see here, I can now just output image.primary key. Now I get the primary keys. I can output image.url. I will get the URL. No, I don't, because it's called image. Here we go. I get the URL. If I have the URL of the image, I can show the image, right? So I could just write image. In this case, we write ng-source because we're using an Angular expression to define the URL of the image. And that's it. Let's see what's happening. They are loading. They're way too big, as you can see, but they are loading. You can also see they're loaded here. Okay. First of all, let's add some width here with 800. So now they're not that big anymore. We can close the debug window for now. It's 3 times the same picture. Not sure if that is right, but we can easily check by debugging again, which we just closed. Reloading the page. It's 3 completely different URLs. They correspond to the URLs in here, and it's the same picture, so we must have uploaded the same picture 3 times. If we want to change that, because we are testing, let's go to the admin panel. Upload images. Let's delete these 2. Yes, I'm sure. And upload a new image. Like this one should not have been uploaded. And upload this image. And see what images are there. Okay, and refresh. Yes, it is working with 3 different images. Now what if you want to add a title? Well, just add a header tag or h3 tag. Put image.primary key inside it. Add image in front of it, so you know it's an image, right? Because you wouldn't know otherwise. And now we have a title. Alright, That's it for index.html, and in the next step we will see what we can do to upload an image, to delete an image. Stay tuned.